Alright, let me guess. You clicked on this video because you want to learn how to run 35s on your truck. Well, I can help you with that. But if you got a ridgeline, you're out of luck because that ain't never going to happen. So, today's video we're going to be going over how to run 35s on your Tacoma. I'm sure it can translate to other vehicles like the 4Runner, but other than that, I'm not sure. So we'll run through that today and we'll let you guys learn some more. Alright, first things first, you got to figure out what tires you want. You want mud terrains, you want all-terrains, you want street tires. I wouldn't do street tires with 35s because I don't think that would make sense. But in my case, I went with the Yokohama Geolander MTs, so it's a mud terrain. I actually haven't had any problems with them, so once you get your tires figured out, then you can move on to wheels. So next we're going to talk about wheels. There's really thousands on the market, but I went with the SSW wheels. I like their bronze color, I like the design of them, and I think that they look good on the truck. When you're looking at your own wheels, I think that there's a couple of different key points to look at. It's the wheel size, its offset. Yeah, that's pretty much it actually. So in terms of wheel size, I would go as little as 17 inches because in the future, if you want to run bigger brakes, you're going to need 17-inch rims. It's easier to find a lot of different tire sizes for 17-inch rims other than 16-inch rims. I ran 16 inches before this and I was able to find some good tire sizes for it, but if you want to run 35 by 12.5, 17 inches is the way to go, and as well as I said for the brakes. So additionally, you got to worry about offset. So you're going to want to have a negative offset for 35s. With a positive offset, that means bringing the wheel more in towards the truck. If you have that positive, you're going to start rubbing on your upper control arm. And we're about to talk to you about clearance here soon, but positive, not good for 35s. Zero, which is usually what it'll come stock with. Zero is okay, but you're still going to have issues with rubbing on the control arms and also the cab mount. The more negative you go, I'd say the better, up to a point. Right now I'm running negative 25 offset, so that's giving me good clearance of those upper control arms. And it's right, honestly, I believe in the sweetest spot you can be where it's not rubbing on the control arm and it's really barely missing the cab mount where I chopped it. Anywhere between negative 10 and negative 25 I'd say is a good point for 35s to be able to clear everything as well as it possibly can. So you may be asking me, why are you talking about wheels and tires first? Because clearance is obviously the most important. Well, it is the most important, but you got to look forward to something. So picking out those wheels and tires early gives you something good to look forward to in the future. So while you're working on that clearance stuff, you can look forward to adding those wheels and tires that you picked out earlier. And staying ahead of the game is always best. So, and also it's my video, so I can choose whatever format I want. Alright, I guess I picked a good time to shoot a video because it's raining outside, so now we're on the truck for a second. But next up we'll talk about lift. So for the lift, I mean, really you only need about 2.5 to 3 inches of clearance, maybe 2 inches too. In the front of my truck I got about 2 inches, so you can get there with spacers, which is not as recommended because you're not going to get really good ride quality out of that. There's a bunch of suspension companies out there. I went with Fox, but you can get up to those 2.5 inches pretty easily with those. In the rear, some good leaf springs as well as suspension is going to lift you up 2 to 3 inches. I'm running the Icon RTX leaf pack. That lifts me about 3 inches in the back with the shock. I got a little bit of rake on the truck, which is good. I kind of like it. So another suspension component that is important for the truck is some upper control arms, where you're going to need some more tubular like upper control arms so you're able to get better clearance with those. I went with Blackhawk UCA. A local shop carries those, so that's what I went with, and they worked great. I recommend something that uses an OEM ball joint so you can replace that pretty easy and it's a low cost replacement rather than getting something that's adjustable and is a little bit more tricky to figure out what to do if something breaks there. So that's what I've done. Alright, so we've come to the final thing. That is clearance. That's going to be the most important factor for fitting 35s. What do we need to do to clear 35s? Well, we got to do a couple things. We got to have our cab mount chopped. We got to have our pinch welds trimmed. We need to have our fender liner trimmed as well. And usually you're going to have to trim the fenders themselves. I trimmed them up about 2 inches. And there's one more thing that really nobody talks about, and we'll get to that in a second. So starting off with the cab mount chop, you can get a cab mount chop or a cab mount relocation. I went with the cab mount chop because it's cheaper. and it should do the trick for you if you get an aggressive one. So I've got an aggressive cow mount chop on there, as you can see, and then that works pretty good for me. In terms of pinch welds, those are just when you cut those up into pieces, and then you hammer those back to where they're pretty much flush with the wheel well. After that, you have to worry about the fender liners. So fender liners, you can either cut those where they rub or just take them out completely. I took them out just because they were rubbing pretty much everywhere. So once I got rid of those, then I was able to trim up the fenders. As you can see, I've trimmed them up about 2 inches from where they were stock, and that is for the plastic, and then as well as the actual metal fenders. Also have Viper Cut, that helps with rubbing on the front of the fenders as well. It's definitely necessary to do add a little Viper Cut, but you can go as aggressive as you want. Mine's pretty aggressive. You can pretty much do kind of whatever cut you want to do as long as it clears those tires. And then a part that nobody really talks about is the stock intake location. The stock intake location is on the other side, but it's going to be kind of up here in the front. And when you don't have the fender liners in, then it's going to expose that intake to dirt and mud and water and whatever. So you don't want to hydrolock your engine if you're going over water crossings. So what I did was I relocated that to the firewall right below the windshield. And that kind of gives me a little bit higher of a location and also kind of a snorkel effect, but I haven't had any problems with that, and it's worked out really good. So if you want to clear 35s, this is pretty much the guide for you. I pretty much went over everything that I've had to do. In terms of clearance in the back, I really didn't have to do anything. They clear good in the back even at full flex, so that's really not a problem. We've got some exciting new content coming out here soon. I'm building my own camper. As you can see, there's no rack on the back of the truck, so I'm building my own camper shell, and then I got a tent that I'm going to throw on here soon. So I'll be looking out for a video for that. And then we'll come out some other videos as we go along, but I'm trying to up my production game. I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a comment letting me know, and I'll be sure to respond to everybody. I will get everybody, I promise. And yeah, thank you for watching the video.